Hey folks, I had to cut the sound out. It was bad audio. So this is the freaky thing, and Albert, I'm going to pull you in a minute. We are broadcasting live on YouTube simultaneously, youtube.com/flying charm. And all of a sudden, my freaking webcam is working. I have no makeup on. I haven't combed my hair. And it's working, so I had to run to the bathroom, comb my hair, which I'm doing live, so I can look presentable for our first simulcast. I see Ben on the line too. So what I'm going to do, guys, is we're doing the show on the Wooten files, and I just want to read one clip because I promised Ben that I was going to investigate the entire memo that Wooten sent his superiors in the U.S. Attorney General's office and his higher superiors for the Department of Interior and the BLM. So there might be parts of the simulcast you can't see me because I had to flip the page. So I'm going to read one segment on page 8. And this is Larry Wooten talking in the memo. In the time, I also became convinced, based on my supervisor and Mr. Meyer's statements, and by the way, he was from the U.S. Attorney's office, not the U.S. Attorney General's office, but Mr. Meyer was his associate at the U.S. Attorney's office. And although the U.S. Attorney's office was generally aware of former BLM Dan Love's misconduct and likely civil rights and excessive force issues, the lead prosecutor, currently the acting Nevada United States Attorney, Stephen Meyer, adopted an attitude of don't ask, don't tell in reference to the BLM law enforcement supervisory misconduct that was of a substantive, exculpatory, and incredible bias nature. Not only did Mr. Meyer, in my opinion, not want to know or seek out evidence favorable to the accused, he and my supervisor discouraged not wanting to know or seek evidence, the reporting of such issues, and even likely covered up the misconduct. Furthermore, when I did report the misconduct, ethical, professional, and legal issues, I also became a victim of whistleblower retaliation. Additionally, the attorney, Stephen Meyer, adopted a few troubling policies in reference to this case. When we became aware of Dave Bundy's, one moment please. When we became aware that Dave Bundy's seized iPad likely contained remarks from BLM law enforcement officers that was potentially evidential of civil rights violations and excessive use of force, Mr. Meyer and my supervisor not only apparently failed to initiate the appropriate follow-up actions, Mr. Meyer failed to notify the defense counsel and also decided not to return the iPad back to Dave Bundy, even though the iPad wasn't going to be searched in pursuant to a search warrant or used as evidence in the trial. And Dave Bundy claimed he needed the iPad for his business. Mr. Meyer also adopted a policy of not giving a jury the option or ability to convict on lesser offenses, and instead relied on a hard case to prove complicated prosecution theory in order to achieve maximum punishments, which had generally failed to this point. So I'm going to stop quick because I don't want to bore the audience. All three of you are on the line. Great for calling in. We're doing this awesome simulcast tonight, and I'm really excited because we've already got 16 views on one of our archive cases on our former Bundy trial. I also uploaded some other Blog Talk Radio archives. One was on the punitive attitude towards Garrison Keillor and Al Franken. And we did, I've uploaded 4 so far, as well as my computer expert, Barbara Patton. So with that, I'm saying hi to everybody. I'll say hi to Albert first. Hi, Albert. Since you called in first, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. I have a slight minor migraine slash headache.
Are you serious? Was it caused by wind or fires in the Palm Springs area?
What's that? No, I said I have a slight minor headache or migraine. I'm not too sure.
Well, sometimes it's caused by Sometimes it's caused by the environment, you know.
Caused by California.
Right, and Don's in Reno.
I guess right here in the Coachella Valley, the Palm Springs Valley, it does get pretty dry because of the mountains absorb a lot of the moisture, so we get a lot of dry weather here. Plus, when it gets pretty warm down here, that just makes it worse. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's the weather, but I think my headache is probably another other reason. But anyways, it's not too bad, so I'm here.
Cool. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Don, why don't you briefly tell the group where you were today and where you're going to be tomorrow, and then Ben will join us with his greeting.
Yes, hi, Dad. Today, hopefully, just ends the week anyway for me. And tomorrow morning is the start of another day. But I have the chair of the Martin Luther King Church Memorial here in Reno, and we had about 100 people out today for, about 90 people out for our church service. After very especially, we're very, very happy that they provided. We also will have a memorial caravan. That is the only one in the country, and we will have that tomorrow, starting at 9:30. More than likely, you can see some of this press today and tomorrow on whatever blogs that everybody uses. So this is something that's the only one in the country, and we will be driving up our highway. I'll be leading, and we'll be driving up the highway to commemorate the Martin Luther King. So this is something that we are really proud of. We are one of the more probably active and or organized Martin Luther King festivities, if you will, in the country. This is our 32nd church memorial, and it is our 20th caravan. So it is significant, especially for the 50th anniversary.
That's great. And one thing I want to tell you guys, since we're simulcasting, I have to keep my new $300 phone on speaker, otherwise the audience won't hear. But basically, I did think we should take a moment out of our day to commemorate MLK Day. They did at my church today, and we also did a special prayer for victims of the California mudslides and fires and other people suffering around the country and world. So a lot of time.
I also want to take a moment to remember Michael Hasty. He claimed to have some government documents and then was died / maybe murdered 4 years ago.
And who's that again, Albert? And what type of government documents?
Oh, Michael Hasty was a journalist. He had some kind of government documents, and I mean, he died in a car accident. And they said he had guns in his system or something like that. And there was a lot of speculation of, that they were done on purpose and stuff like that. And he was murdered because he had these government documents. His name is Michael Hasty. So, next time, you also want to look it up, whoever wants to check it out,
Okay, why don't we let Ben say hi now? Ben?
Go ahead, Ben. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you now.
Okay, I guess my microphone quit working on the headphones.
Do you have like a Xbox? Do you have like an Xbox style microphone?
No, it's just music headphones with the microphone. That's what I've been using for a long time. I guess it quit.
I technically have Xbox with a microphone, but since we're doing a simulcast tonight, I just have to leave it on speaker. By the way, in the future, you guys, we will be doing it just a regular show, and then I'll be uploading it later. Okay. By the way, if you flip your channel to youtube.com/flying charm, you're gonna see me on the webcam talking. That people can see my face the whole thing. But let's cut to the main topic now. And then I just wanted to tell you guys, for the last 30 minutes of the show, we can discuss other topics. But I do want to get to the meat and potatoes of this, because we did get a lot of hits on Monday night show, in which it was just me and Ben, and he pretty much completely summarized what happened with the fact that there was a federal mistrial and none of those people will be prosecuted anymore. But Ben, I did go over with a fine tooth comb the Wooten memo, and basically I could list 20 allegations right here of what went wrong, but I'm just going to summarize a few because I want you guys to talk. First of all, not only did Dan Love and his cohorts exploit the Bundy family and also record their family conversations while they were in jail, which was later stopped by Meyer, they also sent pictures of their own girlfriends' private parts to each other and bragged about their own sexual exploits. They did all kinds of things. But basically, what they really did is they tampered with evidence. They physically threatened people by swearing and saying they're going to shoot the crap out of them right on site on the Bundy Ranch. They threatened to kill dogs and other things. I mean, it was just endless, the type of reporting. And not only was Wooten taken off the case, all of his files and documents and hard drives were confiscated. But luckily, the memo was made public and the trial was dropped. Go ahead, Ben.
Well, I think that has something to do with the new administration. I think this would have kept going on. I think changing the administration and the attorney general shook things up enough where the judge actually decided to look good according to the Constitution. I still don't think she's a very good judge. She's already let these trials go, like, half of the first 10 amendments are dedicated to people accused. So they violated almost every single one of them. Kept those guys in there for 700 days almost, or over.
Right. I did.
Her deciding to do the right thing that's nice, but she should have stopped all of this right when it came to her.
The thing is, though, the most significant, when Larry Wooten, the special agent out of Boise, Idaho, sent this to Andrew Goldsmith, the Associate Deputy Attorney General at the National Criminal Discovery Place. The thing is, it took a few days to process that. It didn't get into her hands right away, but the worst part of the whole thing, beyond the foolish behavior of the agents, is they concealed evidence. They did not you have to inform the defense of actions that you're taking, and they failed to do that. They failed to complete criminal procedure in this case. And they did not behave in a manner conducive to federal investigative agencies. I mean, they could probably pick 5. Who's ever making that scraping noise, please stop. They could have picked 5 seniors from Duluth East High School to do a better job than these federal agents did. It was just ridiculous. And they probably also abused animals in the process.
Well, they did. There's video footage of that. They slaughtered cows from a helicopter. I mean, imagine how many Meals on Wheels they could have paid for if they didn't spend millions of dollars slaughtering the cattle.
I guess one reason I'm glad I wanted to tell you guys a mini prophecy about this whole thing. A couple years ago, when John and I restarted the network under my own name, we picked Tabernacle Faith as our, not because we're Mormons, and we've never been Mormons, but I have a lot of Mormon friends in California. But now when people go to search for the Clive and Bundy trial, we've done at least 5 shows on it. And it's blogtalkradio.com/Tabernacle Faith. It's going to seem more relevant. And I failed to mention that I did contact Clive and Bundy and the Bundy Ranch today on Facebook and ask them to join the radio show tonight. But I'm not sure how often they check that public page. Now, we don't have to continue. Yeah. Go ahead.
One thing is certain is that even though he has been temporarily exonerated, there's not an adjudication on the $1,300,000, I believe, $1,200,000, $1,300,000 the fine that he's supposed to be paying for using the Beyond Land Zoning Act for pretty much indefinitely. So in the past, so for the most part, that should still be on the table. He's not out of the woods yet, but he is emblematic of the Nevadan cowboy, if you will, and that's how these people act. I live in Nevada, I live in Reno, and we deal with these people all the time. The Yerington 2 girls from Yerington, Nevada, they're the ones who are in the news, national news now for the discrimination at their school by their principal and also the chief of police destroying evidence and obstruction of justice. That is a norm around here in Nevada. So that's a norm happening right now, though. That's a slander that's almost played out by now, isn't it? I mean, they've accused every single face that's a conservative is at the risk of being accused of something sexual now. It seems like. But,
Don, are you trying to say because of their posturing and their set of values that they're above the law as opposed to a person of color who might own land in Nevada?
Oh, ding, 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 ding. You win the Cupid doll. This is absolutely what happens. Is that when you got your brother and your uncle and your cousin working in the police department, the judicial system, the Supreme Court justice system, you've got clout. You can actually. Are you saying above the law? Are you saying that the Bundys were connected to the local law enforcement? Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, why would they be thrown in prison?
You know what, Don? They were actually discriminated against by religion.
No, but the thing is that that's not what I'm not talking. I was talking in general. I wasn't talking about the Bundys in particular. Clive and his family, they were just, I don't want to say anarchists, but they just disobeyed the law blatantly and, Well, that's a court case. That's a court case.
But actually, they stopped paying the cattle grazing fees in 1993. This is nothing new.
Right.
But if you had read the federal investigation, how these, it's almost like the federal agents knew that they couldn't conquer the situation, so they just started name calling them inbreds, making jokes about. Well, Dan Love had a kill list, one of the agents, and he had two of the Bundys X'd out on the wall.
Right. And no, this is the climate. The Bundys made sure that it was Bundys against the world, essentially. Bundys versus the U.S. And that
no, because I've listened to what the exact words that they've said about it. They're not anarchists. They believe in government in a certain way that they've read in the Constitution. They have a good argument for not paying the BLM. Because what is the BLM? Federal government. Yeah, but it doesn't describe the BLM in the Constitution. That's a newer thing. And to say that they can tweak the prices as much as high as they want, I mean, where is that covered in the Constitution?
Well, that's again, that's what you just said. The courts have to decide that. But they wouldn't have been put in jail for 700 days just to, and if they were minorities, they definitely would have been let out. But this was very
funny. It's funny you say that because I listened to Ryan Bundy speak about the jail system. Right. While he was in there, he met a lot of people that were innocent. Oh, and a lot of people that had to stay there for most of their time in jail was waiting for court before they were accused.
Do you understand that? Do you understand what you just said? You understand that happens all the time. It's everybody. A lot of people who are in jail unconstitutionally because they are well past any time that they need to have detentions from either their sentence or they haven't been sentenced. And this is chronic. The reason is because, and that's why the Bundy situation is so convoluted, because nobody, we here in Nevada know it, but nobody knows.
Right, but I guess what I was getting at was that he came out of there with a list of improvements and decided to read them on, live, which was, days after getting out, he's already got this whole plan of why it's failing now, how much money it costs, who's benefiting from it, and how it can be improved.
Right, and the thing is that nobody's going to improve it because we have a complex. This is another complex, a prison. When we talk about the military, industrial, pharmaceutical, you go in the prison system in that complex. They don't want to change it because that's their bread and butter. Just like, the same thing, with the normally aspirated fossil fuel burning engines. We've been able to make those 50, 100 years ago, and nobody has been able to put them on the market because the big oil companies and energy companies, they squash it. It's the same thing with the prison system.
Okay, I have a question. Go ahead, guys. No, I have a question for Don. It's a challenge to Ben. Ben, on the last show that you said Monday night, you said that the Bundy family basically had family supporters there and mostly friends. And other people disagreed with that in the media circuits. They said that Bundy's had supporters from all over the country who were just kind of like into their own type of cause as far as a we-them philosophical dispute with the U.S. feds. Now, Don, would you agree that most of the supporters on the Bundy Ranch in 2014 were friends of the family, or do you think they were like outlaw white Americans?
It was, I outlaw white American, 99%. The Bundys had their friends coming from around Montana, Oregon, Idaho, Utah. They got people come around who knew them and who were with them, but the majority of those people were people who were simply arrogant. Okay, I didn't mean to use the word again, Ben, but they are simply people who would want to see the Constitution, especially when it comes down to public lands. People around the country, Ben understands, and I don't know if anybody else does, but BLM land makes up 83% of Nevada. It makes up, I don't know if the specific numbers, but Alaska, Nevada, California, and Texas have the most BLM land in the country by far. So, do you support that? Do I support? Yes. Because you allow BLM owning land. I support it, even though it's beautiful land. If you've seen, and you know it, you've been here. The land is absolutely exquisite. You've got not only some of the more rare animal species, insect, everything species on the planet here, that you've got archaeological sites that have been completely untapped. We've got dinosaur remains that are right. That's all that you're describing the landscape. That's fine. I guess I would disagree with your statistic. If you saw any of the footage, you would know that your statistic of 99% riffraff wasn't true. Well, there was women, kids, there was people on horses. I mean, it didn't look like an angry mob. No, they were partying. They were having a good time until the doggone, then when I say having a good time, until the feds came in. But when I say having a good time, they were occupying highway bridges, and until they forced them more or less enclosed, they were all over the place, brandishing weapons, looking like lynch mobs, and having a grand old time. So this is incredible to hear you flip like this, Don. I've listened to you talk about the police, and just you're siding with an authoritarian, militarized government because of race. No, because of white. You flip. You're on the government side. You support them owning land. That must mean you support the BLM being militarized. What else?
Don, I do think that Don, some of your commentary is pretty audacious. Like you made it sound like a cowgirl reunion or prairie picnic.
There was a lot of the people who believe in the same ideas throughout the country. I live here in Nevada. I see these people. I didn't see the Bundy standoff, and I was just looking at TV. I was traveling at the time and it started. But for the most part, that's the culture. I don't have to. But it's like you're telling me the facts. You were traveling around and saw some of the mainstream clips, and now you're telling me what happened? No, I'm not telling you.
Okay, you know what? It's time for Albert to come in. It's time for Albert to come in and shake us all up.
All I wanted to say, though, before that, is that both sides were right and wrong. I do believe that if we need to protect our natural beauty, our natural monuments, our park system, that we do have to have some kind of enforceable situation or authority to be able to say, okay, we can't come in and just mine. You don't even understand that part of Nevada is uninhabitable, not because of the bombs that were bombed back in nuclear test days that made this a radioactive wasteland, but and the water laws changed it to this day, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, parts of the state, the soil is on it, you can't farm it. You know, there's this place been bombed away. And if we want people to keep on doing that, who is responsible? The same people were responsible for the bombing that are claiming the beautiful stuff. That makes no sense at all. What you're saying
Donna,
is that you would rather be babysat. Why do you think I trip on white people? Because they're so hypocritical that they do things like that. The leadership. They do things like that. They tell you, and our president right now. It has nothing to do with white. It has nothing to do with white. It has to. It does. When you make the laws, when you make the rules, under the president that we just had, you're going to say that. But the president we had saved the world. He saved the world from the president we had before him.
Excuse me? Are you saying Donald Trump saved the world?
No, I said the president. I don't know. Okay, I got. Excuse me, that's my fault. I need to ask Ben. Which president is he talking about? Because that actually makes more sense, James.
I hope you're not talking about Trump.
Yeah, I'm saying the president. I'm saying that whoever was president was before Trump saved the freaking world, and that was because the president before him completely ignored everything he did, and so he almost destroyed the world. When you've got Lehman Brothers that is going to take down an entire country, somebody's not doing their job, and I don't know how many times I've said that. In all actuality, nobody does their job. Nobody.
Well, in the end, Obama caved into Wall Street, and all the TARP funds went to the banks, and the banks ended up having more power than the government anyway.
The bottom line is that we still have too much money in our financial system. So we've got to unwind this very carefully, and this tax increase or reform doesn't help it because it's going to give too much money, even more money into the system, and the system cannot handle it. It will cause rampant inflation. Well, anyway, a lot of things will happen.
I don't think there's too much money. I'll let Albert talk, please.
Okay. Good, Albert. Well, I'm on the Bundy side. I'm not a big fan of big government coming in and doing all this shit there. That's pretty much it. I went to this conversation before. I've been here before on the Bundy conversation, but I think it's kind of beat out of me. There's not much more to say.
I know, and we're not going to spend the whole night on it. I just I wanted all four of you guys here, so it's over now. There's not going to be a trial. The family, Don said there's a few loose ends, but Ben and I decided to look more into the Wooten files to see exactly what was going on. I do have one last comment on this case, though. This Larry Wooten guy almost had nowhere to go. He spent months trying to report insubordination to the higher authorities, and they ignored him. Luckily, he didn't lose his job, and he just got reassigned, but really, it was out of control.
Right, and he was a position of power too. And if he has nowhere he can turn, that's pretty bad for our government.
And that's just
I guess I wanted to say to Don, if you support militarizing the Park Service, Don will support militarizing what's been. I don't support militarizing shit. You know how I feel about the military. Well, I'm just going off of what you just said. We have to have a way to enforce our parks from capitalism, basically. I said, and the only reason I said that is because the park, because there should be no need at all to enforce and support any damn thing. It's our park system. It's our natural. It's our right.
It goes way beyond the park system, Don. There's other things involved besides defending Crazy Horse. You know, there's things like people growing illegal crops on national land. There's all kinds of things. I mean, the Bundy family lived in the sticks in Bunkerville, and it's really not that pretty a land, to tell you the truth.
He's living right downwind from the soils from the Utah, St. George area, radioactive land, wasteland. Every time the wind blows, he's inhaling radioactive soil.
Are you talking about that giant nuclear pile in the middle of Nevada?
I'm talking about the fact that the nuclear test sites were done. The nuclear tests, and if you understand, Jane, nuclear activity doesn't dissipate for 10,000 years or more. So this is continually going to be some kind of nuclear hazard. But most of the nuclear testing was done down in the southeast part of Nevada and the southwest part of Utah.
Have you ever heard of Mount Yucca? There's a nuclear waste site in the middle. Yucca Mountain.
It's the Yucca
Mountain.
Is that when it was a nuclear leakage and it went to the water system?
Larry Becker. My professor wrote a book about it, Lawrence Becker. It has to do with how Congress approved it. And it's actually a nuclear waste site approved by Congress, and it's in the middle of the state of Nevada.
But it wasn't approved by Harry Reid in the Senate. So this is not a nuclear test site.
Well, it's not a test site. It's a dumping ground.
Golly, it's a repository, okay? So it's not being used as a repository because it has not been ratified. But yes, Congress did say that we could be the nuclear test repository in the country, and we told them, hell no. And that's thanks to Harry Reid. But
okay, well, technically, I think the states can handle their own land. I think what you're advocating for the federal government to continue owning all the parks and mass amounts of land, that puts the county sheriffs in a tough situation. You should never have citizens facing armed federal agents on their own land. No, there's a sheriff. It puts all the sheriffs that border land like that in a tough situation.
Yeah, well, I'd rather have that than I have the entire towns like we have here in Nevada, who are dying because of the mining and the irresponsibility. Again, Yarrington, we've got a lot of other towns that are dying. People have to leave because their water system is gone. Their land, again, is full of arsenic. The soil. You understand that? If you put that in the soil, you can't get it back for 1, 3, 10,000 years. I don't want to be what the generations that say that we destroyed the soil where we can't even inhabit our own land. I'd rather have somebody, police force enforcing, saying you can't destroy our land.
Don?
The same people, different division of the same company, basically.
Well, I'm talking about corporations who care about nothing. They care about nothing but profit. That's their existence. That's the definition of a corporation. The corporation does not have any claim to.
Well, let me put it this way: how many states do you think would voluntarily loan their state to nuclear testing? If all the land in the state was state land, how many do you think would voluntarily let it be used for nuclear testing? No, that's basically an overarching thing that just happened to the states. The same thing that caused the problem. You are putting the safety of lands back into their hands.
But you're talking about an extreme case. This is one case. If you're talking about Bundy again, and because you keep bringing up the violence, we had Waco and a couple other places. Those are like extreme.
Well, I'd like to say something about the nuclear testing, because I've been watching a lot of recent news about a lot of North Korea, from Kim Jong-un, doing a lot of nuclear testing, and doing especially a lot of recently right now a lot of missile launch testing, where they launched a missile pretty high into orbit, and it went down and fell on the coast of Japan. And there was a lot of the mainstream media, like CNN, ABC, Fox News, a lot of the American mainstream media, and I see that the mainstream media is very focused when it talks about North Korea. It's very focused. I'm talking about their nuclear and their missile launches. They don't really focus on other aspects of North Korea, like torturing people, or maybe they have camps or people who are starving. They don't really talk about. They only talk about the missiles. The North Korea seems to be the main topic. Even Donald Trump, he only talks about that when he talks about North Korea. He doesn't talk about anybody starving over there or anything like that. Which there are a lot of people starving in North Korea. But no, doesn't mention that at all. And I got to the point where if Donald Trump and the mainstream media all want to talk about that is that maybe a future of possible like maybe war or takeover, like the same thing that happened in Iran. Iraq and also Libya and Iraq. You know what happened over there. And I'm thinking maybe the same thing's going to happen over there in North Korea, like what happened in Iraq. That's where I'm kind of looking maybe in the future. That's probably going to happen, because that's what they're really focused about. And they haven't talked about anything else over there.
Have you heard, Albert? In my journalism background, there's a phrase called saying all the news that fits. And what that means is that you try to put in every factual fact. This is back in my day when news was real news. But most of the time, there's
I don't know what you're talking about. Like I watched the news. When I watched the news and they talked about Saddam had nuclear weapons and stuff like that, and Saddam was very dangerous, and they mentioned that on the mainstream media. And then before you know it, they went down there and took out Saddam out of Iraq, and now it's kind of the same thing happening in North Korea with Kim Jong-un.
Hey.
Kim Jong-un is a Chinese puppet. Saddam didn't have anybody. He was just dancing naked.
That's not true.
He only had a few people who were
right at the peak. Can you give me it, Don? At the peak of Saddam's career, he did have a few respectable allies, and he was trying to court Egypt and a few others, but he never quite made it to the top. He was trying to become a regional hegemon in the area. I do want to interrupt you guys before you get too far into your conversation. The Yucca Mountain Nuclear Waste Repository was designated as a Waste Policy Act in 1987. Don was right, and I'll have to regret to inform you that he was right. The project was approved in 2002 by Congress, but federal funding for the site ended in 2011 under the Obama administration via an amendment to the Department of Defense and Full Year Continuing Appropriations Act, passed in April of 2011. The project had many difficulties and was highly contested by the local public. That leaves the U.S. government and utilities without any long-term designated storage site for high-level radioactive waste. So Don was right. It never went off the ground. John Yoder's on the line. Hi, John.
I told you I was right. I'm always right.
Hi, John.
John Yoder.
Can you break up the
Hello, Jane Hoffman.
Try to stay off speaker. John, is there a way you can stay off speaker tonight?
Actually, I have a headset. However, I'm looking for it in my backpack, and apparently it is not there. I said I left it at home. So, but I can go on mute whenever I'm not talking. That's not a problem.
Okay, well, we've already covered the Bundy case, and now we're on. Albert and Don were sparring over Saddam Hussein and some nuclear waste sites.
Saddam Hussein is my favorite guy.
I just want to tell you, happy Martin Luther King's birthday. If you want to
That's right. Martin had a dream.
Yes, he was.
It is amazing that he had a lot of conviction in faith in God, and I think that's something that people don't realize, that without a faith in God and a belief that God gave us equality, and that He gave us the calling to love our brother and to have peace and love on the planet. That I don't know if he would have been able to sustain the same kind of courage or to endure the battle. Having the hope of heaven. And I think when you took that away, the message, even if you're trying to get peace, it tends to get angry. In other words, it tends to get kind of militant. And the fact that he was able to peacefully protest and to suffer, I think his faith was a really important part of that.
Thank you.
He was a good conservative. Well, look at John. Look at the Facebook or whatever, YouTube, whatever you people look at.
You called us you people.
I'm talking about computer geeks and idiots who are walking around with radioactivity in their pants, in their bra straps, and sometimes in their mouths. But anyway.
Okay,
the bottom line is that
Don, I have to tell. I'm gonna do the courtesy of muting you for 30 seconds to tell you one thing. If you didn't have the internet, you wouldn't be able to be an Uber driver, because all your transactions are through Uber, all your payments are through the internet, and Uber is sustained through the internet. Now you're back on the air.
And that's the only reason I have a smartphone. You know that I had my flip phone, and I'm perfectly happy to have calls come in for me to be able to make calls and text. And that, my camera, I didn't even use my camera, but I didn't care. Because the cell phones are killing you with the radiation that comes out. It's causing erectile dysfunction. It's causing a lot of damage to the body. And if I didn't have to use it for this job, and by the way, Uber is just that. It's